My fiancé texted, "I canceled your therapy. You don't need it. You need to be stronger." I had PTSD from military service. I replied, "Therapy saves lives." Then I called my therapist, apologized, rescheduled, and ended the engagement during that very session. My therapist leaned back in that beige office chair, folded his hands together, and said quietly, "Ruby, that may be the healthiest choice you've made in years." My name is Ruby Spence. I'm 32 years old. I served 6 years in the Army, 2 deployments, long enough to come home with pieces of myself missing and no idea where I'd dropped them. People think trauma looks loud, screaming nightmares, punching walls, public breakdowns. Sometimes it looks like standing in a grocery store, unable to remember why you walked in. Sometimes it looks like sitting in your car for 40 minutes after work because going inside feels exhausting. Sometimes it looks like pretending fireworks don't make your heart slam against your ribs like a trapped animal. When I got out at 26, I unraveled fast. Too much whiskey, too little sleep. I couldn't keep routines. Loud noises made my entire body lock up. I avoided crowds, stopped answering calls, stopped making plans. The VA diagnosed me with PTSD within months. That diagnosis probably saved my life. They paired me with a therapist named Dr. Myers. Beige office, fake-looking plant, framed degrees on the wall. At first, I hated going. Sitting across from a stranger talking about things I wanted buried felt pointless. But healing doesn't arrive dramatically. It arrives slowly, painfully, one honest conversation at a time. By the time I met Daniel, therapy had helped me build something stable again. I worked full-time as a warehouse supervisor for a logistics company. I paid my bills on time, I slept better. I still had bad nights, but they no longer swallowed entire months of my life. And every other Tuesday at 4:30 p.m., I sat in that office and did the work. Then I met Daniel at a friend's barbecue. He was easy to talk to, calm voice, nice smile, the kind of man who remembered small details. He worked as an insurance adjuster and somehow managed to sound interested whenever people talked to him. That alone felt rare. On our third date, I told him about the PTSD. I always told people early. Better to lose someone immediately than watch them leave later when things got difficult. I explained the nightmares, the anxiety, the therapy, the occasional panic responses. Daniel reached across the table and squeezed my hand gently. "I think it's strong that you get help," he said. That sentence got into my chest deeper than it should have. For a long time, he acted exactly like the man who said it. If I woke up from nightmares, he'd pull me close without questions. If crowded places overwhelmed me, he'd quietly guide me outside. Once, after a car accident nearby triggered a flashback so intense I stopped speaking for almost a minute, he stood beside me in the parking lot, rubbing slow circles against my back until I could breathe again. I thought I was safe with him. That's the dangerous thing about emotional betrayal. It rarely starts cruel. It starts comfortable. We moved in together after 10 months. He proposed 4 months later. Dr. Myers asked if I thought we were moving too quickly. I laughed and told him, "When you spend years feeling broken, stability feels like a miracle." I didn't realize desperation can disguise itself as gratitude. After the engagement, things changed. Tiny things first. "Didn't you just have therapy last week? You still go twice a month? Do you think maybe constantly talking about trauma keeps it alive?" Little comments, small enough to dismiss individually. Then came the wedding planning stress. Every conversation somehow circled back to money. My therapy copays through the VA were small, barely anything. Daniel still brought them up. "We're spending so much on the wedding already. It's just temporary. Maybe pause therapy until after the honeymoon." Pause therapy. like it was yoga classes. Like PTSD waited politely in the corner until your schedule cleared up. I told him no every single time. Then his tone changed. Other veterans move on. My uncle served and never needed therapy. His uncle had done 2 years in the reserves and never deployed once, but I was too exhausted to argue anymore. 3 months before the wedding, we had dinner at his parents' house. His father, Martin, was genuinely kind, one of those men who listened more than he spoke. His mother, Elaine, treated me politely, but always with this faint expression, like I was temporary. Dinner was mostly normal, until Martin asked how I'd been doing lately. I smiled a little. Actually, pretty good. Therapy's been helping a lot lately. Daniel laughed softly from across the table. She's still doing that therapy thing, he said. I keep telling her she doesn't need it anymore. Silence. The kind that instantly changes the temperature in a room. Martin looked directly at him. Therapy matters, his father said firmly, especially for veterans. Daniel rolled his eyes. Actually rolled his eyes. His mother stared at her wine glass. His brother looked horrified. I suddenly became very interested in my mashed potatoes because if I looked up, I might cry. I should have left right then. I know that now. But when people spend years convincing themselves they're lucky to be loved, they tolerate disrespect that should terrify them. 2 weeks later, on a Tuesday morning, I was getting ready for work when my phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Hey babe, I canceled your therapy appointment today. You don't need it anymore. You need to be stronger. Let's use the evening to look at reception decorations instead, LOL. I read it 3 times. He had called the VA clinic pretending to help me. Pretending he knew what was best for me. My appointment was gone because my fiancé thought table decorations mattered more than the thing keeping my mind together. I sat on the edge of the bed, completely still. Not angry yet. Just cold. Military cold. The kind where emotions shut off and your brain starts calculating survival instead. Then I typed back, "Therapy saves lives." A minute later, he replied with a laughing emoji. That tiny yellow face ended my relationship. I called the clinic immediately, explained the cancellation wasn't authorized. The receptionist sounded sympathetic, in a way that told me this wasn't uncommon. There's a 5 p.m. opening if you still want it. I do. I went to work, managed shipments, signed paperwork, answered questions, pretended my chest didn't feel hollow. At 5 o'clock, I sat in Dr. Myers' office and told him everything. The comments, the pressure, the dismissal, the canceled appointment, the laughing emoji. When I finished, he stayed quiet for several seconds. Then he asked softly, "What do you want to do?" I stared at the carpet, and for the first time in a very long time, the answer came immediately. I want to end the engagement. Dr. Myers nodded once. No surprise, no hesitation. Just calm understanding. "Ruby," he said quietly, "that may be the healthiest decision you've made in 3 years." I drove home in silence. Daniel was sitting at the dining table surrounded by wedding magazines and color samples when I walked inside. He looked up, smiling. Perfect timing. I narrowed the centerpiece options down to... I slid the engagement ring across the table. His smile disappeared. "We need to talk." Daniel stared at the ring for a full 3 seconds before looking back at me. Then he laughed. Not real laughter, defensive laughter. The kind people use when reality threatens them too fast. "Okay," he said slowly. "Very funny." "I'm not joking." The apartment suddenly felt too quiet. I could hear the refrigerator humming behind us, the clock above the stove ticking. Daniel leaned back in his chair. Ruby, if this is about the therapy appointment, I already told you I was trying to help. No, I said calmly. You were trying to control me. His jaw tightened slightly. That's dramatic. There it was again.
Dramatic. Crazy.
Overreacting. All those little words people use when they want your pain to sound inconvenient instead of real. You canceled medical treatment without my permission. It's therapy, Ruby, not chemotherapy. The second he said it, something inside me went completely still. Not shattered. Not emotional. Finished. You don't understand PTSD, I said quietly. I understand that you've been stuck in the past for years. I stared at him. This man had held me after nightmares, held my hand during panic attacks, told me he admired my strength. And the entire time, part of him believed my healing was embarrassing. You know what hurts the most? I asked softly. He crossed his arms. What? That you pretended to respect me. His expression changed then, slightly, like maybe part of him realized he'd stepped too far. Ruby, come on, he sighed. I'm trying to build a future with you. At some point, you have to stop acting damaged.
Damaged.
That word landed harder than everything else combined. Not struggling. Not healing.
Damaged.
Like a cracked object he'd grown tired of carrying. There isn't going to be a wedding, I repeated. This time, he stopped laughing. You can't be serious. I am. His chair scraped sharply against the floor as he stood. We've sent invitations. I know. My parents already paid deposits. I'll cover my share. You're throwing away our future over one disagreement? It wasn't one disagreement. My voice stayed frighteningly calm. It was the moment I realized you think my PTSD is something shameful. His face hardened. I think you lean on it too much. I actually felt my stomach drop hearing that. Because suddenly, every comment from the past 6 months rearranged itself into the truth. Every sigh when therapy came up. Every irritated look after nightmares. Every passive-aggressive joke about moving on. He hadn't been supporting my healing. He'd been waiting for me to become easier. I watched people die overseas, I said quietly. And therapy helped me survive coming home afterward. Daniel rubbed both hands through his hair aggressively. Jesus Christ, Ruby, I'm not saying what happened to you wasn't bad. Then what are you saying? I'm saying maybe you should stop defining yourself by it. That's funny, I whispered, because you're the one who keeps bringing it up. That shut him up for a second. Then the tears started. Immediate. Sudden. Like a switch flipped. Please don't do this, he said, voice cracking. We're stressed. Wedding planning has been insane. I didn't mean it like that. You sent a laughing emoji after canceling my therapy. His eyes flickered. Tiny detail. Huge damage. I was joking. No, I said. You were telling me exactly who you are. He grabbed my wrist lightly. Ruby, please. I gently pulled away. And I think that hurt him more than anything else. Because up until that moment, I had always stayed. Even when he minimized me. Even when he embarrassed me. Even when he made me feel grateful for basic kindness. But not now. Not anymore. For the next hour, he cycled through everything. Apologies that never quite admitted fault. Anger. Tears.
Blame.
Promises. At one point, he actually said, I just want the old you back. I looked at him and realized something terrifying. The old me almost didn't survive. Around midnight, he packed a bag and left for his parents' house. The second the apartment door closed, the silence hit me like ocean water. I stood there for several minutes, staring at nothing. Then my knees gave out. I slid down against the kitchen cabinets and cried so hard my chest hurt. Not because I wanted him back, because I finally understood how long I'd been begging someone to respect me. The next morning, his mother called. Elaine. Of course she did. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got me. Ruby, she said immediately, I hope you're proud of yourself. No hello. No concern. Straight to blame. I'm not doing this with you, I said tiredly. You humiliated my son. Your son canceled my PTSD therapy appointment. It was therapy, she snapped, not surgery. There it was. The exact same contempt. Different voice. Same poison. You have no idea what PTSD actually is, I said. I know people with real problems don't sit around talking about their feelings forever. I closed my eyes. For 2 years, I had tried to convince myself this woman merely disliked me. Now I realized something worse. She genuinely believed mental health treatment was weakness. And Daniel had learned it from somewhere. You raised a man who thinks controlling his partner is love, I said quietly. She inhaled sharply. How dare you? How dare he? Her voice turned cold instantly. My son gave up a lot to be with you. That sentence almost made me laugh. Like loving me had been charity work. You should think carefully before throwing away a good man, she continued. Not everyone is willing to tolerate this kind of baggage.
Baggage.
The words sat in my chest like broken glass. I ended the call without another word. 10 minutes later, Daniel texted me. Mom didn't mean that. I stared at the screen. Not, she was wrong. Not, I'm sorry. Just, she didn't mean it. That was the moment I understood something clearly. Daniel had spent our entire relationship translating cruelty into something acceptable. And I was finally too exhausted to keep reading the subtitles. Over the next week, he came back to the apartment 3 separate times. The first time, he cried. The second time, he got angry and accused me of ruining both our lives over a misunderstanding. The third time, he brought his best friend Melissa with him. Melissa sat on my couch, crossing her legs dramatically, while Daniel paced the living room. You know, she said carefully, relationships with trauma survivors require sacrifice too.
Trauma survivors.
Not people. Not veterans.
Not me. A category.
A burden. I looked directly at her. And what exactly has Daniel sacrificed?
Silence.
Melissa glanced toward him. Then she said the sentence that ended every ounce of restraint I had left. He could have dated someone without all this baggage. The apartment went completely still. Daniel didn't correct her. Didn't defend me. Didn't even look surprised. He just stood there quietly, while another woman reduced my survival to inconvenience. I stood and walked to the front door. You both need to leave. Melissa blinked. See? This is the aggression Daniel was talking about.
Aggression.
Because I asked them to leave my own apartment. I opened the door wider. Get out. Daniel looked at me one last time, almost like he was waiting for me to stop him. I didn't. After they left, I locked the door, leaned my forehead against it, and realized my hands weren't shaking anymore. For the first time in weeks, I felt safe. The next morning, I changed the locks. The lease was under my name, and my landlord confirmed I had every legal right to do it after giving Daniel written notice to collect the rest of his belongings. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. A week later, Daniel called my workplace. Not HR. Not professionally. He called the warehouse front office and told the receptionist he had concerns about my mental stability.
Mental stability.
At a warehouse where I supervised heavy equipment and 12 employees. One rumor like that could destroy my career. Thankfully, the receptionist recognized his number from previous calls and warned me first before transferring anything. I went straight to HR and explained everything. The canceled therapy appointment, the breakup, the harassment. My HR manager was a Navy veteran. She listened quietly, then said, "Ruby, your therapy is nobody's business but yours. And what he's doing? That's harassment." I nearly cried in her office. Instead, I documented everything. Texts, calls, voicemails. Then I contacted the VA Patient Advocacy Office. Within days, they added password protection to my appointments, so nobody except me could cancel them again. They also connected me with a veterans legal aid attorney who reviewed everything Daniel had done. The attorney sent a cease and desist letter to Daniel and his mother. After that, the calls stopped. A month later, Daniel mailed me a handwritten letter. 3 pages. Mostly excuses. He said wedding stress made him act out. Said therapy had poisoned me against him. Said no healthy relationship should involve sharing intimate emotions with another man.
Another man.
As if my therapist was competition instead of the person who helped keep me alive. At the very end, Daniel wrote, "If you change your mind, maybe we can try again with a female therapist this time." I actually laughed reading it. Not because it was funny, because even after everything, he still believed he deserved control over my healing. I never responded. The financial losses hurt. The canceled wedding cost me over $4,000 between deposits and fees. I worked overtime for 2 months rebuilding my savings. But I kept my therapy. I kept my peace. And slowly, I got myself back. A few weeks ago, I was sitting in Dr. Myers's office after a session when he looked at me and said, "You trust yourself more now." He was right. For years, PTSD made me question my own judgment, my reactions, my worth. But ending that engagement taught me something therapy had been trying to teach me all along. Healing is not weakness. Boundaries are not cruelty. And love that asks you to abandon yourself is not love at all. I'm still single, still healing, still sitting in that beige office every other Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. And nobody is taking that away from me again.